Good day! This is our presentation in BSIT 26, Application Development and Emerging Technologies. Module 10, User Interface Design. The objectives in this module, at the end of this module, you should be able to 1. Enumerate the human factors to consider in designing the user interface, and 2. Analyze and model the user interface based on the user and interface profiles.
User interface. The user interface is one of the most important components of a software system. It is the component of the system that links the user of the system to the actual software system. It allows the user to access and perform the functions and capabilities of the software. We need an aesthetically acceptable as well as user-friendly interface between the user and the software system.
Ang user interface po ang nagli-link sa user at dun po sa mismong software system. Di ba when we visit a website, kung ano po yung nakikita nating appearance ng website, yun po yung user interface. Kaya po, it allows the user to access and perform the functions and capabilities of the software kasi nakakapag-click tayo ng iba't ibang buttons para ma-perform yung functions and capabilities of the software. We also need an aesthetically acceptable as well as user-friendly interface para po hindi mahirapan yung mga user sa paggamit ng user interface at para maintindihan nila ang internal functions ng software system.
Do we really have to put a lot of effort in developing the user interface? Yes. There are some software system developed there the user interface is just an afterthought. Isn't it more important to concentrate on the internal function of the system rather than outward appearance? In fact, there is a popular saying which state that beauty is more than meet the eye.
This statement is absolutely true because character and pure heart are the traits of a beautiful person, which will naturally radiate outwardly. Unfortunately, though true, the outward beauty makes the first impression and usually first impressions last. Remember that the elegance and the beauty of your user interface will mark the difference in your software system.
Sa isang individual, character and pure heart will naturally radiate outwardly. Pero sa system, the inward beauty of a software system does not naturally radiate outwardly. The user interface is the mechanism through which the human user can benefit from the capabilities of the system. Kung ang functions ng software system mo ay tama naman, working naman siya accurately at efficiently, pero yung user interface mo ay hindi naman nagre-reflect dun sa client mo, then the good qualities of a software system are not correctly shown in the interface. That is why the user interface design is very important. The user interface is sometimes called the Human-Computer Interface or HCI, since it provides the means of interaction between the human user and the computer software and hardware. So, in the design of the user interface, there are two factors, the human user and the interface itself. In this module, therefore, we will study these two actors closely in relation to the design of the user interface.
Human factors. The design of the user interface has everything to do with the user of the system. Using our earlier analogy again, let us quote another saying here. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
This quotation says that beauty is relative to the beholder. Tayong mga tao, iba't iba tayo ng perception. Katulad na lang sa isang system. Ang isang user-friendly system ay maaaring hindi user-friendly sa ibang tao. Kaya kapag tayo nagde-design ng user interface, dapat i-consider natin yung mga capability at behaviors ng magiging users natin. Itong mga factors na to ay gagamitin natin in designing the user interface kasi sila yung mga magiging users ng ating gagawing system. Dahil nga iba-iba tayo ng perception and capability of using a software system, we must consider the visual, tactile, and auditory senses of the users. Are they children ba or adults? Novices or computer experts? Deaf or blind or both? We must make sure that we satisfy the expectations of our expected users. We must also consider the skill level and behavior of the users. Kids will normally enjoy using software with voices and music together with varied movements on the screen kasi doon sila nakakakita ng iba't ibang colors kaya di ba kapag ang mga bata nakakakita ng mga bright colors natutuwa. These children will not enjoy plain text and on the other hand, most adults may not appreciate too much voices and music. Isa pa, other cultural or ethnic considerations in the design of the user interface. We should avoid using icons or languages which may be offensive to our users. Kaya sobrang importante ng human factors when we are designing our user interface.
User interface styles. Through the decades, the user interface design has evolved significantly together with the advancement of hardware and software. Generally, we can consider 4 phases in the development of the user interface, namely command interface, simple menu interface, Windows-based user interface, and hypertext interface. In a command interface, the software sits and waits for a command to be typed in by the user, and after pressing the return key, the software performs the task specified. This communication is purely textual and performs queries in batch mode. A new era of user interfaces emerged which is characterized by simple menu interfaces. These menus enable the user to choose from a set of options to perform a certain function. During the advent of Windows applications, new types of Windows-based interfaces emerge, where we now use more hardware peripherals such as the mouse. The user invokes commands by choosing the graphical figures called icons on the screen. Windows can also be simultaneously displayed, which is commonly called multitasking. Another new feature for user interface enhancement emerged. This is the hypertext where portions of text can be accessed and invoked to perform other tasks.
User interface design. Together with the human factors and the available user interface styles that we can employ in our software project, we now design our user interface. We identify the task that we want to place into the interface, classify them, and designing the interface. So we all know that user interface design is the key concept and planning or creation of objects for user interface for machines, software, computers, or home appliances, mobile devices, and other electronic devices. The focus of it is to maximize usability and the user experience. So, ginagamit siya sa mga, we design the following, katulad ng general interaction with the user, information display criteria, and data input windows.
Here are some guidelines in designing the general interaction with the respect to user control. Do not be strict with modes such as command and edit modes.
Siyempre tayo, as user, pag nakikita natin na maraming keys na kailangan i-click or sundin, mas nahihirapan tayo. So, the user interface must be as much as possible modeless.
The software system must be flexible to allow the user to use either the keyboard or the mouse.
May mga pagkakataon na yung keyboard natin hindi available or yung mouse natin hindi available. So, dapat daw yung gagawin nating software system must be flexible na kung hindi pwede yung isa, pwede natin gamitin yung ibang alternative natin na resources.
It must allow the user to change their focus, say change of active window. It must display descriptive and helpful messages. It must provide immediate and reversible actions or feedback. It must provide meaningful paths and exits.
It is very important talaga na it displays or provide meaningful, descriptive, and helpful messages. Kasi di ba may mga actions tayo minsan na pipindot or nakiklik na hindi natin alam saan ba yun or ano ba yung kinlik natin. Kaya yung mga helpful messages na yun, yung nakikita natin na letter I na nasa loob ng bilog, ganun for example, yun yung mga helpful messages or warnings, ganun, na makakatulong sa atin kung ano ba yung napindot natin na actions dun sa user interface ng software system. It must allow the user to customize the interface. It must allow the user to directly manipulate interface objects. It must use conventions consistent with other existing applications. Here are also some guidelines on reducing users' memory load. It must relieve the user of short-term memory or recall. It must assist long-term memory or recognition. It must help complete user tasks. It must provide visual cues. It must provide shortcuts. It must organize information on the screen. It must show what things will look like. It must provide undo and redo capability.
Here's the summary. We have mentioned that the user interface is one of the most important components of a software system. It is the component of the system that link the user of the system to be the actual software system. We must consider some human factors as well as the available resources to implement the user interface in the designing the user interface.
And this is the end of our presentation. Thank you.